coming up on Star City News.
We'll remember former President George H.W. Bush.
We have an update on the house explosion last week that has now led to an arrest.
And an officer was arrested this weekend after crashing his car into a pole. Investigators are waiting for blood alcohol results that could lead to a DUI case.
All that and more coming up on Star City News.
Good evening and welcome to Star City News. I'm Erin Hunter.
And I'm Zach Penrice. Tonight, the country is in mourning following the death of former U.S. President George H.W. Bush. Since his death on Friday, Bush has been honored and remembered all across the country for his years of service and the legacy he'll leave behind.
President Bush personified grace.
America is mourning the loss of George H.W. Bush. The country's 41st president died on Friday at the age of 94.
I want a kinder and gentler nation.
Bush served as the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, was the chief liaison to China, director of the CIA, and vice president to Ronald Reagan before taking office as president in 1989.
In many ways, he was a transitional president in a Republican Party that was changing from the Republican Party that existed during the 1950s.
Survived by his 5 children, Bush's legacy is one that will continue to shape the nation well past his years.
President George Herbert Walker Bush loved his family, and he served his country.
Tonight, Bush rests in the Capitol Rotunda. Wednesday, a funeral for Bush will be held in Washington at the National Cathedral before he's transferred home to the George Bush Presidential Library in Texas, his final resting place. There, he'll be reunited with his wife of 73 years, Barbara, who died this past April.
You think about dying? Yeah, a little bit, but not a lot. It doesn't scare me. Used to. When I was a little kid, think about dying, I would scare it. Terrible. But when you get older, Larry, you don't think about it a lot. I got too much to do, too much to live for, too much happiness.
The trade war between China and the U.S. continues tonight. It's taking a big toll on the state of Nebraska, particularly the trade tariff on soybeans. Star City reporter Scott Ayers joins us live from the newsroom. Scott, are we talking $1 billion here?
That's right, Aaron, and with that kind of money, I was able to talk with UNL professor Wes Peterson about the lasting impact these tariffs will have over farmers and Nebraskans. $1 billion. That's how much China's retaliation tariffs could cost Nebraska agriculture. These tariffs come after President Donald Trump first hit China with tariffs on their goods. UNL professor Wes Peterson says that this gave China a warrant in its retaliation.
So in a sense, China is completely justified in retaliating, which they did, and they're obviously not going to retaliate on something that is not produced in the U.S.
Even though China might have had some reasoning in their retaliation, the tariffs still take a toll on the state. Nebraska Farm Bureau President Steve Nelson told Lincoln Journal-Star that this report provides a clear picture of how much we lost, and that making significant change to state tax policy is like turning an aircraft carrier. These remarks are based on the fact that there will be thousands of jobs lost and that there will be a need for property tax relief. Peterson says that even those at UNL can be affected by this international feud.
So if the state appropriations are reduced, then this leads to higher tuition, or we have a budget crunch at the university where we have to fire people and so on. So,
as China and the U.S. continue their fight on imported goods and the prices continue to hurt farmers in Lincoln, Peterson says that this will have a lasting impact here in Lincoln.
We will be, 10 years from now, probably somewhat poorer than we would have been if we had not done this.
For Star City News, I'm Scott Ayers.
CIA Director Gina Haspel gave lawmakers an update today on last month's murder of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The CIA believes Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman likely ordered Khashoggi's killing. After the briefing, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said he could no longer support U.S. arms sales to the Saudis as long as Mohammed was in charge.
MBS, the Crown Prince, is a wrecking ball. I think he's complicit in the murder of Mr. Khashoggi to the highest level possible. I think the behavior before the Khashoggi murder was beyond disturbing, and I cannot see him being a reliable partner to the United States.
The update included only 8 senators. It is unclear as to why.
Well, Zach, I finally think the snow has stopped.
Yeah, I was wondering when spitting snow I was seeing spitting snow this morning, I should say, but I was wondering when it was going to stop.
We may get to see the sun soon, but I'm not sure about those temps. Let's check in with Abby.
The snow has officially stopped, and right now it is looking like we won't see any in the near future. As a matter of fact, we won't see much sunlight either. It has been cloudy all day, and we'll only get a glimpse of the sun tomorrow. With this cloudy weather, we are also going to be getting some cold temperatures. It is currently 31 degrees and is going to get even chillier tonight, so be sure to turn on the heat. Coming up later, we'll take a more in-depth look at the temperatures for the rest of the week. But for now, I'll send it back to the desk.
Thanks, Abby. A Lincoln police officer was released from the hospital yesterday after hitting a utility pole over the weekend. Officer Matthew Broad remains off duty, recovering from his injuries, according to a statement released by Police Chief Jeff Blymeister. The preliminary investigation indicates that alcohol may be a factor. The results of chemical testing for blood alcohol levels are pending the analysis by the Nebraska State Lab. We do not believe the driver was wearing his seatbelt. Police are going to hold off until those results do come back. America may get a good look inside Robert Mueller's Russia investigation in the next week with disclosures from multiple sources that could be extremely detrimental to the president.
Court filings about Michael Flynn, President Trump's former national security advisor, in addition to Paul Manafort's filings, could add context to unexplainable ties to Russia, as well as give a defense on how valuable Mueller's defense thinks it is. Special Counsel Mueller claiming Manafort lied to his team and to the FBI.
So his lawyer's decision after the fact to share details of those discussions with the president's legal team, you can imagine, is not sitting well with Robert Mueller or his staff.
And Cohen's sentencing memo has sent 2 targets directly to the president, including participating in planning discussions pertaining to hush money payments for Stephanie Clifford and Karen McDougall. If this is indeed true, Trump will be in violation of federal campaign finance laws.
Unless you, as the president says, Michael Cohen's lying now, not lying then.
Well, and that is the big danger here, right? At the end of the day, Mueller is relying on somebody who's now an admitted liar.
Yeah.
By the end of the week, we should know how strong Mueller's defense is and the threat it poses for President Trump and his administration. For Star City News, I'm Erin Hunter.
Coming up on Star City News.
Emerald ash borers are not only ruining Lincoln's ash trees, but they are also racking up a large bill.
Grace Harmon will have your full rundown on sports. All that and more coming up on Star City News.
Live from the Anderson Hall Broadcast Studios in the College of Journalism and Mass Communications at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, this is Star City News.
Welcome back to Star City News. I'm Zach Penrice. Lincoln police have had a busy past couple of days. Our police reporter Alec Chisholm is live near 84th and O Streets, where last week's house fire has now been declared an act of arson. Alec?
4, 3, 2. That's right, Zach. LPD have arrested the man that they believe started the fire at this house, but that's not all. They're also investigating 2 cases of stolen firearms in the city, and police took a man into custody that they claim hid evidence from them during a traffic stop. 40-year-old Dennis Prokopek was booked for second-degree arson and burglary Monday. According to neighbors, a man resembling Prokopek arrived at the home after the residents had left for work. After Prokopek left, neighbors heard an explosion and saw fire coming from the house. Prokopek's ex-girlfriend is one of the residents of that house. The trend of guns being stolen from vehicles continues. LPD reported 2 more incidents that occurred in the Capitol Beach area. The burglar stole a 12-gauge shotgun from one truck, then right down the street, stole a rifle from another. LPD Public Information Officer Angela Sands reminds people to lock their doors so they don't become the next victim.
Always lock your car. Don't leave it unlocked. Usually the thieves are pulling handles for the easy targets.
There have now been 143 guns stolen in Lincoln this year, 19 of those from vehicles. Only 24 have been recovered. And finally, a man taken into custody after trying to hide evidence from officers. Martavius Green was stopped early Monday morning after he almost crashed into this ditch in northwest Lincoln. According to LPD, Green showed signs that he was drunk. After being detained, Green came up with a unique way to hide drugs from the police.
Green was placed in the backseat of the police cruiser where he took a small, tied-off baggie containing a white substance and placed it in his mouth. The officer directed Green to spit the baggie out, but Green refused and swallowed it.
Green was arrested for possession of a controlled substance and tampering with evidence. He was cited for a DUI and driving while suspended. For Star City News, I'm Alec Chisholm.
The University of Nebraska-Lincoln is warning students and staff to be on the lookout after a weekend sexual assault.
The notice we sent out was an awareness to students to be aware of the circumstances and also keep themselves safe. In this particular instance, a student had allowed 2 other people from outside the university into one of the residence halls at night, and as a result, there was a report of a sexual assault that occurred to that particular student.
The woman told police she and a friend met 2 men off campus. When they returned to the woman's dorm room, she said she was sexually assaulted. The UNL police are asking students to report any suspicious activity related to this case.
The city of Lincoln is doing what it can to deal with the emerald ash borer. Property owners are now looking for Lincoln's help on what to do about the death of their trees. Star City's Abby Stonehawker has more.
During a public hearing on Monday, there were many suggestions that the city needs to start dealing with the removal of many dead ash trees. The city has started to remove 1,000 or so smaller ash trees along the streets each year, and they're being replaced with other kinds of trees. Parks and Recreation Department Director Lynn Johnson on Monday described the $22.8 million plan for dealing with the city's 14,000 public ash trees. However, many people said the city needs to start looking into privately owned ash trees. Lincoln property owners are dealing with the loss of 40,000 to 50,000 private ash trees. Throughout the meeting on Monday, many people spoke up saying Lincoln needs to encourage replacement of the ash trees on private property, just as the current plan is to replace ash trees from public lands.
It's expensive to have any kind of tree trimming, much less tree removal done. As Mr. Shively said earlier, I think what a lot of people will do in the end is I can't afford it, what do I do? And bury their heads in the sand.
For Star City News, I'm Abby Stonehawker.
Even with Husker football officially wrapped up, Nebraska sports fans have had plenty to keep them busy.
Both the basketball and the volleyball teams have been playing well and are making themselves nationally known. Here's Grace Harmon with our first look at sports.
That's right, guys. Nebraska basketball has officially cracked the top 25 and is getting some national recognition. The Huskers will now try to make more moves up the poll when they face off against 2 very talented teams this week. I'll also give you an update on Ohio State's Urban Meyer following the announcement of his retirement earlier today. And finally, I'll preview the Husker volleyball team that's on a roll following their first and second NCAA round wins. And I'll tell you all you need to know about their Sweet 16 matchup on Friday afternoon. All that and more is coming up soon on Star City Sports. But for now, I'll send it back to you guys at the desk.
Cold temperatures are becoming more consistent here in the metro. Star City's weather reporter Abby Stonehawker is standing by here in the studio. Abby, it's been cold and it's looking like it's only getting colder.
That's right, Zach. The current temperature is only 31 degrees and tonight it is going to drop to around 18, which is very cold considering last year on this day the high was 63. So far this season it has been colder than in previous years. The average temperature is usually a high of 40, so we're about 10 degrees below that. And stay prepared for those cold temperatures because it won't be heating up over the next week. But we will be taking a closer look at those colder temperatures soon. For now, I'll send it back to you guys.
Thanks, Abby. Stay with us. Plenty still to come on Star City News.
Grace Harmon will return with more on sports.
But first, we'll be right back with Abby Stonehawker to give us her full weather report.
All that and more coming up on Star City News.
Welcome back to Star City News. It is currently 31 degrees and cloudy. We haven't seen much of the sun today, but there is no chance of snow for a while. We saw a lot of snowfall this last weekend and it finally stopped earlier today. But last night, Norfolk actually got a few extra inches of snow, and it was created from 2 industrial plants. It was later confirmed that the steam from the plants produced enough moisture and warmth to create snow. Check it out. You can see on the radar the stream of snow right off of Norfolk. they were able to create 2 more inches of a winter wonderland. But let's get back to what's happening in Lincoln. We won't be seeing snow anytime soon. Taking a look at our 5-day forecast, it will be mainly cloudy the rest of the week. I wish there was more sun in the forecast, but it's not looking that way. However, it will heat up to 37 tomorrow, but then it will drop back to the low 20s on Saturday. Now turning to your 7-day forecast, finally the sun will be out on Sunday, and we can start next week off right with some sunshine on Monday as well. The temperatures will heat up a little bit with a high of 26 on Sunday and a high of 31 on Monday. You know, guys, if we don't have a white Christmas, we can just tell Norfolk to do what they did.
I still can't believe they created snow from a factory. I mean, who knew?
It's nice to have an option just in case we have a snowless Christmas. Well, that'll do it for weather, but still to come on Star City News.
Grace Harmon will give us the full rundown on sports.
And we'll take one final look at the life and legacy of President George H.W. Bush. More to come here on Star City News.
Welcome to Star City Sports. I'm Grace Harmon. The Nebraska basketball team are in the top 25. Following the team's 15-point win over Illinois on Sunday, the Husker men have cracked the poll, coming in at number 24, marking head coach Tim Miles' best start to a season in his tenure at Nebraska. The team's Sunday victory moves them to 7-1 on the season and 1-0 in conference play. But the road is just beginning.
But I'm going to blink and we're going to be ready for Minnesota on Wednesday. And then, we've got another bowl game on Saturday. So, I'm happy, but you want to enjoy it. But at the same time, I think when I walked in the locker room after the game, somebody had written Minnesota on the board. I thought that was that's always a mark of somebody's mind's in the right spot, at least.
The Huskers face a tough several weeks, starting with a road trip to Minnesota on Wednesday. The Gophers are sitting at 6-2 on the season and are coming off a 20-point loss to Ohio State. Following the midweek matchup, the Huskers don't get much time to rest as they host the Creighton Blue Jays on Saturday at Pinnacle Bank Arena. The Blue Jays are 6-2 on the season as well and are coming off a close loss to the nation's #1 team in Gonzaga. The Nebraska volleyball team is marching its way through the NCAA tournament, winning in the first and second rounds over the weekend. First, the #7 overall seed defeated Hofstra in 3 sets on Friday night, led by a match-high 12 kills from sophomore Lauren Stivrance. On Saturday, Nebraska continued its domination with a 3-set win over #24 Missouri. After the matchup with the Tigers, Jung Cook not only praised his team, but his opponent.
For a second round match, that's the toughest I can remember in a long, long time. Missouri's a very good team. They serve tough. They got some great arms, and they ball handle really well. So great effort by Missouri. Really impressed with them, and we had to play a great match to win tonight.
He also spoke highly of Husker faithful for showing up for the first 2 rounds.
I just think it just amazes me. Even though I've been doing this a while, it amazes me. We get that kind of crowd, that kind of support. People are waiting out in the snow and the cold, and
the Huskers will now leave their home court advantage and travel to Minneapolis on Friday, where they will face off against number 10 seeded Kentucky. The Wildcats currently have a 26-4 overall record and soared through the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament, beating both opponents in 3 sets. The match will kick off at 1 p.m. local time and will be televised on ESPNU. Elsewhere in the Big Ten, Ohio State is making headlines following the announced retirement of head coach Urban Meyer earlier this morning. Meyer said his decision to step down is due to increasing health concerns related to a cyst in his brain. Earlier in the season, the 7-year Ohio State head coach told the media he had planned to keep coaching as long as his health would allow it, but has decided to end his coaching career after the Buckeyes play in the Rose Bowl later this year. The program will be left in the hands of the team's offensive coordinator, Ryan Day, who acted as interim head coach earlier this season when Meyer was suspended due to allegations of covering up domestic violence. Moving on to the NFL, the weekend provided notable matchups all across the board, but perhaps one of the most notable things happened off the field. The Kansas City Chiefs released running back Kareem Hunt on Friday following an investigation of an incident that happened in February. A video released before the weekend shows Hunt attacking a woman in a hotel while another person tried to restrain him. The Chiefs knew about the incident, however, parted ways with the second-year running back after discovering he had lied in the team's initial investigation earlier this year. On Monday, head coach Andy Reid gave a statement saying, "I'm hoping and would like Kareem to get help. Everyone that was involved with it, I just think it's a tough deal. My prayers are that everyone involved gets help here." Since Friday, 2 more allegations have surfaced, and the running back has opted to become a free agent, however, cannot play until the NFL investigates the incidents. Well, that's all I have for you in Star City Sports today, but keep watching. There's still plenty more coming on Star City News.
Welcome back as we conclude the last newscast for this Star City News crew.
As we leave you, here's a look back on the life of the 41st President of the United States, George H.W. Bush. Thank you to those who chose to tune in throughout the semester. For one last time, I'm Zach Penrice.
And I'm Erin Hunter. Good night.